Hey guys, welcome to our informative vlog of the day. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Josie.
And we're going to be talking about tariffs and trade barriers.
Tell me more about trade barriers.
Well, trade barriers are government policies which place restrictions on international trade. Trade barriers can either make trade more difficult and expensive or prevent trade completely.
Really?
Since I just gave a quick definition of trade barriers, can you tell us a little bit about tariffs?
Sure. Tariffs are a type of trade barriers in the form of a tax on imported goods and services, like this speaker right here, which was made in China.
Oh.
Yeah.
So can anyone collect these tariffs? Like, could I collect these tariffs?
No, actually. Tariffs are paid to the customs authority of the country importing that certain tariff.
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
So while we're looking at these nice sheets, I'm going to talk a little bit more about tariffs. So tariffs on imports coming into the United States, for example, are collected by customs and border protection, acting on behalf of the Commerce Department. In the UK, it's HM Revenue and Customs that collects the money, not you, Dylan. What you holding there? Is that an imported good with a tariff on it?
I think so. This is something I use in my everyday life. Usually try to consume a whole rack of ribs every day. So, why are we talking about tariffs again?
Tariffs are important. Top 5 reasons why tariffs are a thing. Number 1.
Protecting domestic employment.
Like he said, protecting domestic employment. The levying of tariffs is often highly politicized. The possibility of increased competition from imported goods can threaten domestic industries. These domestic companies may fire workers or shift production abroad to cut costs, which means higher unemployment and less happy electorate. The unemployment argument often shifts to domestic industries complaining about cheap foreign labor and how poor working conditions and lack of regulation allow foreign companies to produce goods more cheaply, like this hat right here. Economics, however, countries will continue to produce goods until they no longer have a comparative advantage, not to be confused with an absolute advantage.
Reason number 2.
Protecting consumers. That's you and me.
A government may levy a tariff on products that it feels could endanger its population. For example, South Korea may place a tariff on imported beef from the United States if it thinks that the goods can be tainted with a disease.
Ew. Number 3. Infant industries. How appropriate. Tell us more about reason number 3.
So, infant industries is our reason number 3.
And it's not talking about babies.
Oh, you're right. The use of tariffs to protect infant industries can be seen by the import substitution industrialization, a strategy employed by many developing nations. The government of a developing economy will levy tariffs on imported goods in industries in which it wants to foster growth. This increases the prices of imported goods and creates a domestic market for domestically produced goods while protecting those industries from being forced out by more competitive pricing.
Fascinating.
It decreases unemployment and allows developing countries to shift from agricultural products to finished goods.
Criticisms of this sort of protectionist strategy revolve around the cost of subsidizing the development of infant industries. Not talking about babies. If an industry develops without competition, it would wind up producing lower quality goods, and subsidies required to keep the state-backed industry afloat could sap economic growth.
Reason number 4.
Yeah.
National security.
Because we cannot find guns, we are going to use bows and arrows as our prop for talking about national security. Barriers are also employed by developed countries to protect certain industries that are deemed strategically important. Oh, jeez. Such as those supporting national security. Yes. Defense industries are often viewed as vital to state interests and often enjoy significant levels of protection. For example, while both Western Europe and the United States are industrialized, both are very protective and defense-oriented it says companies, but they're also countries.
This is supposed to be country.
Finally.
Reason number 5.
So we're going to be talking about reason number 5, retaliation.
Countries may also set tariffs as a retaliation technique if they think that the trading partner has not played by the rules. For example, if France believes that the United States has allowed its wine producers to call its domestically produced sparkling wines, or champagne, a name specific to the Champagne region of France, for too long, it may levy a tariff on imported meat from the United States. If the U.S. agrees to crack down on the improper labeling, France is likely to stop its retaliation. Retaliation can also be employed if the trading partner goes against the government's foreign policy objectives.
Let's talk about tariffs. Who in the world benefits from them?
I don't know.
They seem kind of dumb.
Let's find out. So the benefits of tariffs are quite uneven, actually.
So does that mean, like, you would benefit more than I do?
Well,
That's not fair. So, because a tariff is a tax, the government will see increased revenue as imports enter the domestic market.
unfortunately for consumers, both individual consumers and business consumers, higher import prices means higher prices for goods. Totally can't see my head.
Wow. Looks like we found our section here
Yeah.
amongst some
Trash.
steel trash cans. Nice. Anyways, if the price of steel is inflated due to tariffs, individual consumers pay for more products using steel, and businesses pay for steel that they use to make those goods. So what does this all mean?
Well, in short, trade barriers and tariffs tend to be pro-producer and anti-consumer.
What's up with that?
So the effect of trade barriers and tariffs on businesses, consumers, and the governments shift over time. In the short run, higher prices for goods can reduce consumption by individual consumers and by businesses. During this period, some businesses will profit and the government will see an increase in revenue.
From duties.
From duties.
In the long term, these businesses may see a decline in efficiency due to lack of competition, and also see a reduction in profits due to the emergence of substitutions for their products. For the government, a long-term effect of subsidies is an increase in the demand for public services, since increased prices, especially in foodstuffs, leave less disposable income.
Anyways, now that we have a pretty good idea on what trade barriers and tariffs are, why we should have them still, and who benefits from them, we can look into what kind of trade barriers or tariffs affect Illinois, specifically Central Illinois.
Recent events suggest a possibility that China will place a 25% tariff on soybean exports from the United States to China.
Soybeans? Well, at least my ham beans are safe. So what would happen if China started a tariff on soybeans?
Well, such a tariff would result in lower soybean prices and have numerous price and cost effects. We would evaluate these impacts on the 2018 to 2021, that's right, financial performance of an average 1,700 acre grain farm located in Central Illinois. Wow, close to home.
That's where we are.
That's where we live. Our analysis indicates a 25% tariff would result in a significant deterioration in cash flow. An attendant 20% farmland price decline would result in over a $500,000 decline in the farm's net worth by 2021.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Before we get a little more information on this tariff that could happen, let's get a little more background information first.
Good idea. Recently, the back and forth between the United States and China over tariffs has drawn intense interest, like intense. Each country has threatened to impose tariffs on important products from the other country. China threatened to impose tariffs on agricultural commodities such as soybeans, corn, beef, and dried distillers grain. So,
because of the size of the United States exports to China, they proposed the proposed Chinese 25% tariff on soybeans has received a great deal of attention. Whether or not these tariffs are imposed may remain to be seen, but obviously the imposition of a 25% soybean tariff will have a large impact on all of us Midwest farmers.
Due to the increased supply of pork this year, coupled with the tariffs placed on pork exports to Mexico and China, prices are expected to drop significantly. Oof.
They estimate that this will further decrease the price by about $9 per head. So we're already looking at some kind of loss per head going into late 2018, which would be now, but then into 2019. Basically, it'll make the whole situation worse.
It was already bad though. The tariff on pork products to China is at an additional 25% since early July. It's said that the losses will be drastic. One more thing about pork.
Unfortunately, Illinois pork farmers were increasing their exports to China and Mexico, but with the tariffs in place, the profits from increased sales will most likely be offset by the losses this year.
Let's wrap up this talk about soybeans and pork.
So why it is or isn't a problem? Illinois harvests an estimated 600 million bushels of soybeans per year, and 60% of those soybeans are exported. So analysts expect China to increase pork tariffs by another 25%, which would virtually shut out U.S. pork sales in that country, which would not be good. Openness to trade and investment has substantially contributed to United States growth, but the United States still maintains duties against several categories.
For real?
Yes. The highest tariffs are concentrated on agriculture, textiles, and footwear. The effects of tariffs will be lower GDP, wages, and employment in the long run. The tariffs will also make the United States tax code less progressive because the increased tax burden would fall hardest on lower to middle class households.
Let's talk about the bottom line of everything that we talked about in today's vlog. Everything. Okay, so free trade really benefits consumers through increased choice and reduced prices. Like these great prices at Walmart. Anyways, but because the global economy brings with it uncertainty, many governments impose tariffs and other trade barriers to protect the industry. There's a delicate balance between the pursuit of efficiencies and the government's need to ensure low unemployment.
And that's probably all we have for today on tariffs and trade barriers.
Thanks for joining us on
Like
the
and subscribe.
Dylan and Josie vlog.
Comment down below what macroeconomic topic we should talk about next.
Below is my address. Feel free to send some gluten-free cookies. I also like kombucha.
Peace out.
Peace.